Well, we'll see.
How do you turn this on? Is this on?
It should be on already.
Hello? Is it on? Is it on? I have to, okay.
It's on.
I have to talk really close to it then.
You do. It's
Okay.
not like the others at the other buildings where it just picks it up. It's very specific.
Okay. I will try to remember that.
Just put it right in front of you like David does.
Okay.
She complained to the engineer.
Make sure you come when everybody's going home.
Everybody's not home.
If you work like I do, you work to 7 or 8, then you come home and
You ready?
I'm ready.
It's scary, you know, switch order.
Okay, the time is approximately 6 p.m. and the March 28th, 2024 Farragut Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting will now begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and online. I want to thank you for your presence at tonight's board meeting. My name is Mayor Ron Williams, the 4th elected mayor of the town of Farragut. We appreciate that each of you has taken the time from your busy schedules to either attend tonight's meeting or to see how our town government works. All Farragut Board, Mayor, and Alderman meetings are public notice per Tennessee state law. All board meetings are recorded and can be viewed at a later date. If you're in attendance, you should be able to pick up a copy of tonight's agenda at the door when you come in. If you're not able to attend tonight, then the agenda is available online at our website. For those in attendance that would like to speak, please pick up a blue card at the door and write your name and agenda number that you wish to comment on. There will also be some time reserved at the end of the meeting for citizens' comments on non-agenda subject items, which also requires that you fill out a blue card with citizen comments as your time to speak. On each agenda item, the mayor will ask the town recorder for the residents' input. During this time, any Farragut resident who wishes to speak to the board on that agenda item may do so for up to 3 minutes. After being recognized by the mayor, please go to the podium microphone in order to be heard and viewed by all. To conduct efficient business-like meetings, the town has adopted rules for how its meetings will be conducted. Primarily, these rules are designed to keep the meeting moving, ensure that all points of view are heard and considered. We ask that you observe the established meeting rules when addressing the board. At the beginning of the presentation, please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you address all of your questions to the mayor or, in his absence, the vice mayor. Do not direct the questions to the alderman or staff members. If necessary, the mayor may call on these concerning your question or comments. Once you've given your input, please return to your seat so we can continue on with the meeting. We ask that every speaker avoid the use of improper language, profanity, or other inappropriate conduct. Speakers should strive to avoid redundancy. We ask that you also stay on subject The topic of the agenda item that you're speaking on. We're here tonight to do the town's business, a very important responsibility for all of us. Okay, with the meeting called to order, we will start tonight's meeting with a roll call by our town administrator. For a quorum, prior to standing for a prayer by Alderman Burnett, and that will be followed by a pledge to our country's flag.
Alderman Burnett.
Here.
Alderman Meyer.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Vice Mayor Povlin.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams here.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for the opportunity to come together and talk about items that affect the people in this town. We thank you for your creation, screams your glory. We look around at the mountains and the beautiful land that we live in, and we are thankful to you that we get to live here. Pray that you would be with those in service, overseas, abroad, across the United States, that you would keep them safe and healthy. Pray that you would be with their family members, their kids, their spouses at home, and comfort them while their loved ones are away. We ask that you would give each and every one of us wisdom, knowledge, and discernment to discuss items related to this great town. Pray all these in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any agenda amendments?
No, sir.
None?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor of approval, say yes.
Yes.
Noes? Let the record show the March 28, 2024 agenda has been approved as posted. Any amendments to the posted minutes?
No, sir.
None?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. In favor of approval, say yes.
Yes.
Let the record show that the February 22nd, 2024 minutes have been approved as posted. Mayor's report. I will start by thanking all the museum committee members and their staff for the work with the Black History Month presentation. This was a very successful event. Also, on a personal note, my wife and I also want to thank everyone who recently sent flowers and cards concerning their loss. Next will be the Vice Mayor's report.
I have none.
Okay, any other aldermen have anything to report?
No, sir.
If not, we'll move on to resolutions. We have 3 resolutions to review and consider tonight. Approval of Resolution R 2024-02, a resolution approving the original Knox County Growth Policy Plan as amended by the recommended changes approved by the Knox County Growth Policy Coordinating Committee at its meeting January 10th, 2024.
Mayor, thank you. This is a rather complex request and stuff that you typically don't deal with here with the town, county, and the city working together and having to work with each other on an item such as this. But the resolution before the board tonight is asking for amendments to the current Knox County Growth Policy Plan. The plan was put into place really back in 2001 when the Tennessee General Assembly required some legislation that said that all cities and their counties needed to work together on a growth policy so that everyone knew where the towns and cities within those counties would grow. The plan developed things called urban growth boundaries for future annexation for both the city of Knoxville and the town of Farragut. It also uses land designations of planned growth and rural for future growth throughout the county. Knox County had not amended our plan since 2001, and so Mayor Glenn Jacobs asked back in August of last year, according to TCA 658-104, to amend and to call together the Growth Policy Committee to make some amendments to the plan. The Growth Policy Committee did get together, held 4 different public meetings to discuss those amendments, and approved those amendments to go forward on January 10th, 2024. Those include both text amendments and a map amendment that would designate planned growth, rural, and our urban growth boundaries for, again, the city and the town. In order for the growth policy plan amendments to take effect, both the County Commission, City of Knoxville, and the Farragut Board of Mayor and Aldermen all have to approve those amendments. Both the County Commission on February 26th and the City Council on March 5th approved those amendments. So now the item is before the board for your consideration as part of the resolution before you this evening. If the board approves the resolution, then it moves forward, and I think the amendments would go into effect either May 1st or as soon as they can be approved by the state. Also, if the board elects not to approve the amendments and reject the amendments, then according to TCA, the municipality shall submit its objections and the reasons therefore for resolution in accordance with TCA. It would also ask that, and then the coordinating committee could get back together again if Knox County Mayor Jacobs wanted to so do that, to look at the amendments that this body would have for them. So the proposed motion before the board is to approve resolution R-2024-02, which would be approving the original Knox County Growth Policy Plan as amended by the recommended changes approved by the Knox County Growth Policy Coordinating Committee at its meeting on January 10th, 2024. Mayor, at this time, I know that Knox County would like to make a brief presentation to the board, and so I think Chris Caldwell is here from Knox County, Chief of Staff and Chief Financial Officer, to make a brief presentation to the board. You should be good, Chris.
Okay,
Just speak
good.
into it.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll be brief. We want to thank you for the support from the mayor, the aldermen, and the town of Farragut. Your collaboration has been vital throughout this entire planning process. As you are aware, the growth policy process is complicated, as he mentioned himself. After an attempt to amend the growth policy plan in 2019, Mayor Jacobs heard the concerns and began the process of creating our first comprehensive land use and transportation plan. We have spent the last 2 years working with Kimley Horn, committee members, stakeholders, and heard from over 4,000 residents to assist us in developing a draft plan. After the draft plan was created using the data gathered from the comprehensive plan, the mayor reconvened the Growth Policy Committee with a proposed amendment. The Growth Policy Committee reconvened in October of 2023 and held its first meeting in January of this year. There were a total of 4 public meetings, and several of you were in attendance. During those meetings, we heard from residents, decision makers, and requesting additional changes to the proposal. We carefully considered the request, made edits, and presented a final amendment, which was approved at the January 10th meeting. Since then, we have hosted workshops with this body, County Commission, and City Council to review the amendment, and I ask for your support on the resolution before you today. This is an important step in the process to help guide where future growth can be accommodated and aligns with our shared vision for a thriving community that balances economic progress with preservation of our rural areas. Thank you all.
Yeah, that's all staff has at this time.
Okay. During the board's growth policy plan workshop in February, Vice Mayor Pavlin provided a presentation that I thought was very helpful in understanding the Advanced Knox, which is Knox County's effort to update their general plan and the growth policy plan. And I have requested that she provide the presentation tonight. I think it will be helpful in addressing some of the misinformation that's out there on social media. And it will also help folks that's not read the plan. So,
Is it the one I sent you today? All right, well, we'll see if this is the one I sent, that I prepared, because it may not be the right one. So, all right. That's par for the course, isn't it? So, I had it may not be the right presentation, but we'll work through it. I could just leave this alone, and we could just vote. But there's a lot of misinformation on social media, and this is thick stuff. I think a lot of times land use and planning takes kind of years. Local land use is very difficult to understand. I think a lot of what we hear going on in Farragut is a frustration with seeing how quickly land is developing and not understanding that we are constrained by the Constitution of the United States and state of Tennessee. Private property owners have constitutional rights, due process, and the takings clause, and we are also constrained by statutory authority of the state, how we plan, how we zone. General plans have to be adopted by the regional planning commission. We, as a municipal planning commission, are required, or it says duty to adopt the general plan. Our planning at the municipal level and county planning are dictated by two different codes and two different types of ordinances, so it can get complicated really fast. And then add into that the growth policy plan, which was a layer added by the General Assembly in 1998 in a manner to help control what was going on in a lot of the counties. The cities were annexing at will commercial areas in the county and basically taking up their cash registers and local sales tax from the counties. The counties were very frustrated. So this was their solution to provide for this growth policy plan that is an overlay over the planning for the whole county. It is tucked in this Title VI, City and Towns, Chapter 58 Comprehensive Plan. It is very specific about how the initial plan and subsequent amendments to the plan are handled and how they are processed or rejected if there's disputes. Go ahead and go to the next one. Growth policy plan includes, generally includes, and I'm not sure if many people have seen this online, this is the growth policy plan. This was adopted in 2001. It includes a map, which we saw up there, that designates rural area, planned growth area in unincorporated Knox County. It also designates urban growth boundaries for both Farragut and the city of Knoxville. It does not address growth and development in the town of Farragut or in the city of Knoxville. It also includes a growth policy plan policies related to the rural area, the planned growth area, and the urban growth boundaries, and includes a lot of background information. The reason we need to have the growth policy plan updated is because in all land use decisions made by the legislative body shall be consistent with the growth plan. So as they change their, look to change their comprehensive land use plan, they have to make sure that it is aligned with the growth policy plan. Next one. So this is, it was approved in April 2001 by Knox County, City of Knoxville, and Town of Farragut, and approved by the Local Government Planning Advisory Committee, April 25th, 2001. That is a requirement. This amendment, I believe, goes to the Local Government Planning Advisory Committee at the state for, to make sure that it's all legitimate. Background of a growth policy plan. In 2017, so basically this plan was approved in 2001 and essentially got put on a shelf. By 2017, the developers in Knox County began to push back on the density restrictions in the rural areas that are reserves at up to 3 units an acre. They questioned whether the growth policy plan was still in effect and enforceable because it hadn't been addressed in so long. August 2017, the state of Tennessee Attorney General released an opinion that said, yes, indeed, the comprehensive growth plan law is still applicable for all land use decisions. So in January of 2019, Knox County developers requested that Knox County Commission express support for a statewide legislation to eliminate the growth policy plan or by specific exemption for Knox County via the resolution. The January 28, 2019 meeting, John Schoonmaker moved to withdraw that resolution and further moved to reinstate the Growth Policy Coordinating Committee. I'm sorry, we forgot to announce because we're so terrible about this. John Schoonmaker is in the audience, and so is Larson Jay, our elected representatives in Knox County. Ultimately, Commissioner Schoonmaker's motion was unanimously supported. February 2019, the Growth Policy Plan Coordinating Committee was convened. They had 4 meetings. A recommendation for approval of the amendment was September 30th, 2019. The proposed amendment deleted sections 3.2 through 3.6. It replaced those protections govern the development in the areas designated rural on the growth policy map. They replaced those protections with the following language. Rezonings in the rural area shall be consistent with and controlled by the applicable sector plans as adopted by the Metropolitan Planning Commission and Knox County Commission. Essentially, what this amendment would have accomplished is making the entirety of Knox County a planned growth area with no protection to reserve the rural area. It went to the Knox County Commission on October 28th. It was approved 7-4. It was very controversial. One of the dissenters was Commissioner Schoonmaker, our 5th District representative, which sends a signal to us. If he doesn't think it's a good idea, we should be really considering what's going on here. November 20th, 2019, the City Council approved it 5-4. Again, it was rather controversial. By the time it got to us, it started to dawn on us this was not going to be good for Farragut. It was not going to be good for Choteau. It was opening up the rural areas to unrestrained development, and we were concerned. So we ended up rejecting it. They could have gathered the coordinating committee at that point, but as Chris Caldwell stated, Mayor Jacobs decided to regroup and begin the work of updating the general plan, which was adopted in 2003. On October 25th, 2021, they agreed to a contract with Kimberly Horn for a comprehensive plan, and this began the advanced Knox process. I think there's confusion, so there's a little confusion about what advanced Knox is. It basically is 3 different things. It's the amending of the growth policy plan, it's developing and approving a Knox County comprehensive land use and transportation plan, and it's an update amending development ordinances, which what they're calling the Unified Development Ordinance. The town of Farragut here, we are here simply to vote on the growth policy plan. We are not voicing anything on the comprehensive land use plan or the development ordinances, but I'm going to go into those in a little bit of detail because I think this is very confusing. So first step, growth policy plan. The current policy allows residential development in the rural areas up to 3 dwelling units an acre. Simply states that it must be on a collector road which meets standards of Knox County engineering. It allows for rezoning for business parks and industries, and it includes the growth policy map adopted in 2001. The proposed amendments limit residential development density to 2 dwelling units an acre in rural area. Residential development must be on a collector road with a minimum width of 18 feet. It does not allow for rezoning business parks and industries, and there have been no amendments proposed for the map adopted in 2001 for the Farragut area. This is a tool on their Advanced Knox page that shows what the growth policy map looked like in the Choteau area and Concord area in 2001, and the following is showing that there's no changes in there. So the amendments to the growth policy plan have gone to the county commission already. They approved it unanimously. Then it went to the Knoxville City Council on March 5th, and they approved it 7-2. The next step is obviously tonight we'll be working through our vote on that. But the next step in Advanced Knox for Knox County is to develop or approve the Knox County Comprehensive Land Use and Transportation Plan. I think the most important aspect of this comprehensive land use and transportation plan is that it coordinates development of land with a long-range plan for the roads. So this is their proposed, go ahead and go to the next one. Where is this? This is their most recent draft of the comprehensive land use and transportation plan. In this, if you see, this is a screenshot from, that's what's on Advanced Knox, and it lists the visions and goals. I pulled out, next one, I pulled out the visions and goals I think that are most concerning to our area that I hear from our Choteau residents a lot is the community character, strong places with distinct identities. They're concerned about infrastructure investment and the transportation network, particularly in the Choteau area. So this is what I consider our Farragut area transportation network. Obviously, our transportation network does not end at our borders, and our Farragut area certainly includes Old Concord Village and the Choteau, and certainly north of the interstate. This is just so everyone's aware. These are the roads that we have updated either for capacity, for safety, for modernization. We've made quite a few connections. So in the town's existence, we have invested incredibly in our infrastructure, trying to at least support the growth that's happening in our town, but also trying to absorb the growth that's going on outside our town. This shows the transportation network in the Choteau area. During our workshop, I used the word fragile. That is not an engineering term, but I think everybody can pretty much agree that the transportation network in the Choteau area is fragile. There's one east-west connection, that's North Shore. There's one north-south connection, and that's the Harvey-Choteau into Boyd Station. You can see the traffic counts there on North Shore start at one end, and I can't even read that, that's 4,500. At the end of it, at the western end of it, it's 17,300. That was in 2022. According to the Highway Capacity Manual, a two-lane road with left turns, the capacity is 18,300 vehicles per day. A two-lane road is not limitless. The capacity is not limitless. It starts to degrade. People in Choteau are very well aware of this. It's a struggle. This shows a lot the accidents that have been that happened, and it's all the length of that, which tells you this is an issue for this road. I know that. Go ahead. I'll address that when I get to it. This is a screenshot from the plan. It shows all the transportation projects by type throughout the Knox County. It tells us, when I look at the one in Choteau, it tells us that they're looking to modernize North Shore and provide a multimodal aspect to the Harvey Road Choteau. You can go into the Comprehensive Land Use Appendix D, has a universe of projects so that you could really dial in and see what projects they intend for all the areas and what they are. So we know from this map that Knox County intends to modernize this, not add capacity. And that's important to understand when you're planning land use, to understand what your roads are going to be able to handle. The next thing is, so we know that Choteau, the transportation projects that they're doing right now is they're currently going to bring the lane width to 11 feet on North Shore. They're adding 2 feet of shoulder. Probably a lot of those accidents are when they leave the road, there is no shoulder, and you're basically in a ditch. They also plan to build a greenway. The Harvey-Choteau multimodal project isn't projected. It must be projected after 2045. It's not on their list of new, early, mid, or late-term projects. This is in Chapter 2 of the transportation, shows areas of future study. Choteau Peninsula has been added there. Areas of future study is an opportunity for a small area corridor plan. Go ahead and go to the next one. It's an opportunity to dig in, do a long-range plan for a small area, allow stakeholders in county to take a deeper dive. It's an opportunity to collect data and conduct in-depth analysis. There's a forum to consider other elements such as stormwater and utility needs, and can be adopted as amendment to the comprehensive plan. Choteau has, one second, go back to that. Choteau has, not only do they have transportation network issues, I understand that the folks down in Early Road area had to basically purchase pumps to increase pressure to get water into their houses after a lot of development happened that apparently wasn't required to make sure that they had the correct pressure. No existing homeowner should have to buy a pump. This is something that would be revealed in any future study they do. This is an opportunity to really dig into what are the other issues that the Choteau area is dealing with. So, moving on to the land use. When this land use plan first came out, I'm familiar with this because they have a future land use map. It's very similar to ours in philosophy. So I was able to kind of look at it and take a look at their land use designations. The first place I looked at was the Concord, this is Old Concord Village, which is in our urban growth boundary. I had an opportunity to look at that next one and realized that it was designated traditional neighborhood and then corridor mixed use on the front. Traditional neighborhood is envisioned to be somewhat, at least I haven't looked at the designation lately, but it was intentioned to be somewhat denser because you have grid-like street network. But that is not the character of that area. That is not what the folks in that area are striving for. So I took the opportunity to meet with them and go through the map with them to tell them, hey, I've looked at this. I'm not sure that this is what you want. You may want to reach out, and I kind of gave them some guidance next one. I pulled out what I believe to be, they wanted to maintain the commercial on the frontage. They wanted to, there's commercial on the frontage on the, I don't know what that street is, 2nd Street or whatever it is, and then on Concord. We pulled that out, and I suggested that they probably make that mixed suburban residential and the rest of it suburban residential because it's a pretty small lot in there. So they reached out to Kim Frazier. She worked with staff, and next one. And they were able to make those changes. So the current draft, this is what it's shown. You can go to the next one. So during the workshop, I had pulled out these properties that are undeveloped in the Chodo corridor. We already know that North Shore is tapping out, and we have still undeveloped acreage in the Chodo area, in the planned growth area. I'm looking at that and thinking, something's got to give. You're not going to widen the roads, so you're going to have to, you can't put any more connectivity in there because of the railroad. These are, we don't have many options. They've basically developed it too densely considering the constraints of that particular area. So as I was looking at it, and I knew that Kim Frazier had pushed to allow for rural living, which is lower in density, but also is more characteristic with the area. So move to the next one. You can move to this area is already built. It's residential, large lot. It's still zoned agriculture, but it's large lot. And then the final one. And this is the available land west of the Chodo Circle. So I had said, you know, can we just designate this rural living? It's a better use of that, or identification of that area. They really are trying to keep that rural feel, and that's what the staff, working with Kim Frazier and working with staff, that's what they did. You can go to the next one. So all that's either rural living or rural agricultural. You can move to the next one. If you go into the Appendix H, and I know I'm getting you guys in the weeds, and I'm sorry, it's thick, but this stuff is what residents need to understand so they can advocate for themselves. This is stuff that needs to be studied so that you can come in armed with knowledge to say, hey, this is what's going on. This shows all the different land use designations on the left, and then right now, all the applicable zoning ordinances that would go with that land use designation. You can go to the next one. Rural living place type, they call it directly related. These are what's allowable is agricultural zone, which is 1 dwelling unit per acre. Estates is 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres, and rural preservation is 1 dwelling unit per 15 acres. Partially related is something that you can apply for, but you've got to defend it PR 1 to 2 or PR 3 to 5. This is your current general plan, and it's designated LDR. And when you go to you can go to the next one. You go to the land use classification conversion in the sector plan for that, you basically have RA low density, which can be up to 3.9 units per acre, RAE again, 3.9 units an acre, PR up to 5 units an acre. And then they have the zoning districts that can be considered agricultural zone, which is what most of that is already. And RB general is at general residential, which I'll go into a little bit more. That's a lovely zoning district. So the next step after they adopt this comprehensive land use plan is to move on to what they hope to do is a unified development ordinance. They need to, they're looking to amend their zoning ordinances, which are woefully out of date and very concerning. and hopefully provide higher standards for a lot of their development ordinances, the subdivision regulations, the stormwater building regulations, fire prevention, et cetera. So I wanted to go through a few of the status quo zoning ordinances. As you all are well aware, planned residential zone is not an innocuous zone. Chota was very frustrated recently with concerns about that. It allows houses, attached houses, which townhomes, duplexes, and multi-dwelling structures and developments. The concerning thing for a lot of people is each planned unit development shall be compatible with surrounding or adjacent zones. Such compatibility shall be determined by the Planning Commission by review of the development plans. Developers tend to think a little differently than residents about what is compatible, and that can be very frustrating for the residents when they're looking at and say, well, I don't see how you see that's compatible. It doesn't. That's a open-ended thing that I think planned residential really needs to be addressed. No one knows what they're getting until you pass it. And then even then, you don't know what you're getting, because if the property changes hands, you're going to get a new development. And you may not even realize that you have to go in and renegotiate some of the protections that you might have negotiated in the first time. This is another one. RB general residential, to me, I call it the kitchen sink of zoning ordinances, because it's basically everything. It's the breadth of uses in that zoning district are concerning. That's how you got the Loop Road Apartments. That area was zoned RB for a very long time, probably because of the mobile homes that are in there. A developer was able to buy up quite a few of the pieces of property, put them together, and was able to put the Loop Road Apartments up to 12 units an acre. Didn't require rezoning. It was a use by right. Once you have it, it's a use by right. Every use in there is a use by right. It gets even more interesting, though. So this is a current request for, I'm going to get this straight, OB, office medical related services. This is property in between the Tapestry and a single-family residential neighborhood off Outlet Drive. They are asking for OB. It's between PR, which is a PR up to 18 units an acre, is Tapestry, and then the neighborhood, I think, is at 1.5 units an acre. They're asking for OB, and you think, well, wait a minute, how does office work in between these two, these residential zoning districts? OB allows for RB use. The general residential zone has been folded into, allowed in as the permitted use in the OB, office medical related service zone. But it gets even more interesting than that. By special, go ahead to the next one. By use as permitted on view, you can go up to 24 dwelling units an acre, which is what they're requesting. So we're going to go from PR, 18 units an acre, to at 3, there's pretty much 3 stories. Then you're going to go to PR up to, OB, which is RB, up to 24 units an acre, 4-story buildings, and they're going to try to massage it into the buildings 2 stories next to the existing residential. This is how residents get lost, because this is buried in there, and it's complicated, and I didn't even know that RB was buried in there until I spoke to the attorney that represents that client. This was the other issue with this was the Planning Commission staff did not, they suggested that they reject this. Planning Commission ignored staff's recommendation, and they ignored the plan and recommended approval of that project. It's going to the County Commission at the end of this month. The next one is this. This is, go back one. This is Gettysview. The highlighted area is in the middle of Gettysview. So Gettysview is single-family detached, PR, up to 3 units an acre. The developer wants to put in 2 3-story buildings, I think 40 apartments total. PR allows single-family detached and multifamily in the same zoning district. And this, at PR, up to 3 units an acre, with these apartments, you're still at 2.3 dwelling units per acre. So technically, this is allowed. It has been tabled. I don't know what that means. I don't know if the developer is rethinking it, or I know that the residents in Gettysview were stunned by this and a little frustrated by it. So those are just a handful of zoning ordinances that have problems now. We know they have problems that need to be updated, that they need to be more thoughtful for how this community, the Knox County community, looks at development. You can go to the next one. Go ahead, Matt. So this is, to me, this is a synopsis of Advanced Knox. Growth Policy Plan amendments reduces density from 3 dwelling units to 2 dwelling units in the rural area, specifies 18 feet minimum width for collector roads for development in rural area, removes business park and industries in the rural area, and planned growth area on map in Farragut area remains unchanged. Comprehensive land use and transportation plan strategically coordinates land use and transportation decisions, identifies universal projects for Knox County, providing clarity to all stakeholders. Undeveloped land and planned growth area in Choteau, designated rural living or rural agricultural. A small area study is planned for Choteau to further study constraints and current conditions, and a plan to address the safety of North Shore with increase in lane width and shoulders is underway. The Unified Development Ordinance is to update out-of-date and confusing zoning ordinances and update all other development ordinances and regulations. And that's all I had. Sorry to get you guys in the weeds, but this is thick stuff. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. Next, what have you got for me, Allison?
We need a motion and a second.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
I have 5 speakers.
5 speakers? Okay.
Our first one is Lawrence Seacrest at 12103 Valley Trail.
Okay. Let's step up to the
Mayor, Aldermen, you may remember back in 2010, Nancy Pelosi famously said that we would have to pass Obamacare to find out what's in it. On the other hand, my Lord and God and Savior, Jesus Christ, once asked a rhetorical question. Which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees will begin to mock him. Rather than get into zoning laws and debates over the meaning of complex legal language, I encourage the mayor and aldermen to take a high-level view of the proposed growth plan. First, we cannot build a wall around Farragut. Donald Trump's not going to do that for us. Whatever happens in the county impacts us. That's a plain and simple fact. Taking the advice of Jesus, let's count at least some of the costs. More traffic and red lights, more dangerous roads, longer lines in the emergency room with fewer hospital beds to go around, and increased crime with law enforcement stretched thin. That's not an exhaustive list. These problems will require tax dollars and years of construction to fix it. And where will these tax dollars come from? Look around this room. It's the taxpayers. It's always the taxpayers. And while we suffer through years of fixing these problems, our quality of life will be horrible, and the community we call home will be transformed into something that nobody wants. Very recently, Angela Russell's election shocked the local political establishment, and I was proud to vote for her. Ms. Russell said 2 things that rang true to me. Number 1, infrastructure should precede development. Number 2, developers need to make a significant contribution to cover infrastructure cost and the privilege for being allowed to build. Amen to that. While Nancy Pelosi said that we have to pass Obamacare to find out what's in it, we don't need to pass the growth plan to find out what's not in it. First off, what's not in the plan is any allocation of funds or any plan to pay for all the infrastructure needs this plan creates. We have no idea how many hundreds of millions it will cost, but we all know when the bill comes due who will be expected to pay for it: we, the taxpayers. Buying something without knowing the cost, that's what we call buying a pig in a poke. Secondly, what's not in the plan is any discernible benefit, no discernible benefit whatsoever to the citizens of Farragut. This begs the question, cui bono, who benefits? I think we can all answer that question, but I will state the obvious. Developers will make out like bandits. Back in 2009, while Americans were suffering through the financial crisis, the Wall Street bankers were pocketing taxpayer funds. You see, these banksters have figured out how to reap profits in good times and get taxpayers to bail them out when their ill-conceived schemes fall apart. They call that privatizing the profits while socializing the risk. The growth policy plan is the same sort of thing. Developers pocket the profits and leave us, the taxpayers, to clean up their mess and pay their bills. We got a rotten deal in 2009, and we're about to sign up for a rotten deal today. Let's be very clear, this plan was written by developers for developers, and recent polling, if you haven't seen it, recent polling indicates that the people have had a belly full of it. Now, regarding your role as mayor and alderman, please take notice. You are in the position of trustees, and we are the beneficiaries. Under the maxims of equity, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the people of this town to make decisions that are for our benefit. Whether it hairlips the world or maybe just hairlips Glenn Jacobs, you trustees are duty-bound to make decisions that benefit the citizens of this town. It is rare to see such a clear-cut case where all the burdens and cost would fall on the beneficiaries while providing no benefits at all. A vote by this board for the growth policy plan would represent willful neglect of your fiduciary duties, and I cannot imagine any court of equity ruling any differently. I therefore implore this board of mayor and aldermen to save this community, this place where my family and many others have chosen to put down their roots. Please vote no on the growth policy plan.
This guy's name? Who?
Our next speaker is Gerald Thornton.
Good evening. I'm Gerald Thornton. I live in Sugarwood subdivision here in Farragut. I'm the chairperson of the Harvey Broom Group of the Sierra Club, which includes, its territory includes Knox County and 28 other counties in East Tennessee. And I'm speaking for the Sierra Club tonight. The Sierra Club respectfully requests that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen reject the growth policy plan and call upon the Growth Policy Planning Committee to reconvene and create a better plan. Although the Knox County Commission and the Knoxville City Council have approved it, we believe the vast majority of citizens of Knox County are in opposition, both to the Comprehensive Land Use and Transportation Plan and to this growth policy plan, which is before you now. The Sierra Club joins the majority of interested citizens in our opposition to these plans and requests that our elected bodies and the appointed Growth Policy Planning Committee resume the process with the intent to frame a comprehensive plan and a growth policy plan that will provide a sustainable future for our region. The comprehensive plan should analyze, and the growth policy plan should require these kinds of things that are missing. Tree preservation measures, including replacement of trees removed by developers, using a formula like you have here in the town of Farragut, and the protection of existing contiguous tree canopies. It should include a detailed transportation plan that includes bike paths, bus lanes, and bus routes, and other measures that give people transportation choices other than private vehicles. The connection of natural areas in the county through wildlife corridors that enable wildlife migration. The creation of a natural and cultural features GIS map showing features like wetlands, ground and surface water resources, natural habitats, prime farmland soils, threatened and endangered species habitats, geological features, steep slopes and ridgetops, historic features, so that future zoning decisions can be based on knowledge of what attributes exist in the subject land and the lands around it. It should include an open space rating system to identify and protect the most valuable natural features in the county. The protection and maintenance of farmland, particularly prime farmland soils in all rural areas in the county and in the town of Farragut. It should require and incentivize the most modern energy efficiency measures in all new residential, commercial, and industrial development to reduce our carbon footprint and the effects of climate change. There should be a prohibition or regulation, at least, of crypto mines in Knox County, which are using inordinate amounts of electricity and increasing our carbon footprint at the same time that we are trying to reduce it. It should include identification of specific tracts of land to be acquired for parks in the park deserts that were identified in the comprehensive plan. There should be a protection of ridge tops and slopes greater than 15% from destruction by development.
Jerry, let's wrap it up.
Okay, so you get the idea. There's what I think is the plans are pretty good, and this Vice Mayor Povlin pointed out some of those things, but it's not good enough. They can do better, and so that's what we're asking for: that you vote down the growth policy plan as it currently is. Ask the county to create a revised comprehensive plan and transportation plan and an enforceable growth policy plan that impacts on how they write the future zoning ordinances, and insist that the growth policy plan contain the kinds of sustainability elements that I have listed above. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Our next speaker is Alex Kane.
Alex Kane, I live in Wyndham Hall subdivision, and for disclosure, I am a candidate for the Ward 1 seat that Ms. Povlin will be vacating at the end of her term. I have just a few questions. Has the Knox County Growth Policy Plan been legally reviewed by the Town Law Department? If it has been reviewed, is there a report? What does that report entail and contain? And can we make a copy of that report, if it does exist, available to the public? And I'd like to know if we can get some of those answers this evening. Thank you.
Alex, that will be passed on to our legal department.
Our next speaker is Michael Wilson.
I could just have a couple of handouts to the board.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Michael Wilson, 412 Eisenhower Street, Farragut, Tennessee. Tonight I want to address some inconsistencies between the two paragraphs in the resolution. Please disregard the first handout, as the normal 5-minute time has been condensed this evening for speakers. Let's look at those two paragraphs in the resolution. If you please go to the blue tab in your second handout, you'll see two highlighted paragraphs. The first paragraph states, quote, rezoning within the rural areas shall be limited to zoning districts that are consistent with the following place types: rural crossroads, rural conservation, and rural living, and be consistent with the adopted comprehensive land use plan and transportation, in parentheses, see place types in appendix. The second paragraph states that residential development in the rural areas shall be limited to no more than 2 dwelling units per acre. At some point tonight, I'm sure one of you will be saying, this is a win, as we are decreasing density from 3 units to 2 units per acre. I say not so fast. The reality is the current recommended density is being doubled, and it can be worse. If you look at the green tab, that provides 2 maps from the interactive future land use map on the Advanced Knox website. It shows well over 1,000 acres that will be designated as rural living. This idyllic and pristine East Tennessee land explodes in vibrant color each fall and provides a refuge for a variety of wildlife. If this is approved, it will be covered in homes and townhomes with thousands of people trying to traverse undeveloped roads with no plans for real improvements. This is the 15 to 20-year reality of what we are talking about. How can this happen? The pink tab is the draft language for Appendix H. Let's focus on the partially related relationships for rural living land use designation that's highlighted in orange. If you look at the table on the last page, you will see the planned residential zone, 2 to 5 units per acre, is partially related to rural living, meaning it is available in this land use. Why is this a concern? Remember the paragraph in the resolution that states, rezoning shall be limited to zoning districts that are consistent with rural place types, which includes rural living, and be consistent with the adopted comprehensive land use plan and transportation plan. So while paragraph 4.3 of the growth plan states the maximum density is 2 units per acre, paragraph 4.2 says rezoning must be consistent with the land use plan, land use and transportation plan, specifically referring to Appendix H. Appendix H in turn includes the planned residential district at 2 to 5 units per acre for rural living land use in Choteau, making it consistent with the proposed plans. Which of these paragraphs will Knox County follow when the rezoning request is submitted to build out for 4 or 5 units per acre under this zoning district? Will millions of potential property tax revenue sway their decision? This loophole must be closed to guarantee what some of you are promising us tonight, that density will be limited to 2 units per acre. Simply removing this zoning district for rural living land use in the table would resolve the problem. So considering all of this, what would your approval mean for Farragut residents? Over the last 4 years, you've lamented that the Choteau pass-through traffic is a large part of our town's ongoing traffic concerns. These problems will only be exacerbated by doubling the current recommended density of 1 unit per acre in Choteau. The loophole I've highlighted tonight is far more concerning. So until the county presents a comprehensive plan to address North Shore traffic from Choteau to Pellissippi, any blanket increases in recommended density above 1 unit per acre should not be approved. I want to close with this. As you ponder your vote, remember, the Choteau pass-through traffic is not your fault. However, it is your problem. If you pass this tonight, any additional Choteau traffic is no longer just your problem, it's your fault. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Daniel Sanders.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Sanders. I'm a land use attorney here in Knoxville. I'm here on behalf of several concerned citizens and stakeholders of the town of Farragut to voice our opposition to the proposed Knoxville-Farragut-Knox County Growth Plan and ask that you urge that you reject the plan and send it back to committee for further revision. To its credit, the Advanced Knox process has connected the dots between the location and nature of growth and its physical impact on government. For those of us who have been paying attention to land use issues over the past 40 years, it comes as no surprise that suburban sprawl is an expensive luxury that we can no longer afford. The problem is identified as sprawling, relatively low-density development. The data show that Knox County is running a $20 million annual deficit. If something can't go on forever, it will stop. The question is, how will it stop? Will it stop you, or will you stop it? The question that you need to answer tonight is whether the proposed plan puts theory into action. And the theory, the solution for the problem, in theory at least, is that we steer our future land use development pattern toward higher density of use and population in certain parts of the county. We suggest that the proposed plan doesn't do any of that. And as Vice Mayor Pavlin has pointed out, when you compare the proposed solution to the proposed growth policy plan map and the past growth policy plan map, nothing has changed. If we are trying to change our development pattern, you would expect that the growth policy plan map would change, but nothing has changed. And you can see that, and Vice Mayor Pavlin has pointed that out. I'd also like to point out that this issue about the future land use map and place types is what I would call a meaningless distraction to you. Once you pass this tonight or move past this vote tonight, if you fail to close the door on development in and around the town of Farragut and sprawl in and around the town of Farragut, you will lose a say-so in that. A future land use map, the proposed future land use and the comprehensive plan do not contain mandatory density regulations that will control density in and around the town. In addition to that, over the last 5 years, since 2019, Knox County has had a 93% rate of approval on proposed plan amendments. That is, if you if they pass a comprehensive plan, they can and will amend the comprehensive plan, including the place type designations, to do whatever a developer wants them to do with a piece of property. Beyond that, certain types of proposed amendments receive a 100% approval rate. Those will include planned residential type developments that want to change the plan from agricultural to planned residential or low-density residential. So I submit to you that something's been lost in translation. If we are supposed to change our development pattern, we do not see those changes reflected in the growth policy plan map. Obviously, that's going to result in problems for the county and for the town of Farragut. Those have been addressed by other speakers. And so, how will this end, and what role will the town of Farragut play?
Thank you, sir.
I understand that this is the first time that you've considered this. We ask that you reject the plan and send it back to committee for further revision. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Mitchell. I can't because I have to do the timer.
Here's my phone. Could you do that?
Do my timer?
Are we good on time? Can you put that map up, please?
She's got the timer up for you.
Okay, well, Mayor and Alderman, thank you for the time. Handing to you a poll from Farragut residents, and it shows that 65.9% of Farragut residents want you to deny this plan tonight. That's why I'm here. I'm asking you to vote it down. There are a lot of aspirational goals in this that are very good. I thought Vice Mayor Pavlin made an excellent presentation. I appreciate very much the work that Vice Mayor Pavlin and Kim Frazier from County Commission did for the people of Choteau. So I'm going to have to ask you to use your imagination since we don't have the map. You saw the swaths of yellow there. That's the planned growth area. I'm asking you to vote this down so those other areas of planned growth can get the same consideration that the people in Choteau got. This is about the safety of people on the road. This entire plan was created so roads that could accommodate more traffic, which is the result of more housing density, are in that yellow area. But some of those areas, like in Choteau, have been moved into the rural area. I applaud that, and I thank you for what you've done. I'm simply asking you to send this back, as Daniel Sanders said. We have all of that other area in yellow where children are on the road every day. I'm here asking you to do the right thing. Let's amend the rest of those areas where the roads are not capable of the traffic. Commissioner Schoonmaker told us, and it was reported in the Farragut Press, that there's no money to fix these roads and make them safe for children. So what this is a dangerous, unfunded mandate. I think you've been given plenty of reasons to send it back. Let's do this plan, make it safe, and fund the roads for all the people that use the roads. I appreciate your consideration.
Our final speaker is Matthew Parsons.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Parsons. I live in the Kingsgate subdivision here in Farragut. I've been a Farragut resident for 20 years. Moved here from Michigan originally, and am missing a Detroit Tigers game on opening day to be here. Now then, here's why I am here though. I am here because essentially the Farragut that I see now is different than the Farragut that I intentionally moved to. And I'm not up here with any papers, briefs, or even probably really articulate arguments regarding the zoning laws and all that kind of stuff. Really why I decided, in fact, I decided at the last minute to step up and hand my sheet in, because I'm sitting here today, and Vice Mayor Povlin, you know, she was talking about how complex this issue is and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, I kind of felt like I was back in 2020. And I felt like Dr. Fauci was up there telling me that this was a complex issue and we needed to do 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And there was a part of me that, like, at that time, I was on board. I'm like, okay, yes, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. However, then, as we all know, as time went on, we began to look around and go, well, wait a second, kind of what I've been told by the experts isn't exactly what I see. And the fact is that I feel like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And as you guys are sitting here, and I look around the Farragut that I see and some of the choices that have been made inside of Farragut regarding little farms and apartment buildings going up, there's part of me that looks back on that and says, if I were to sit here and say, hey, yeah, keep going, guys, keep voting the way you've been voting, I feel like that would be almost my fault for saying, hey, yeah, you guys, you know, you've earned my trust. But I feel like that trust has been broken. And I'm just speaking as a family guy. I've never been active in politics or anything like this, because the reality is I've been coaching baseball for, you know, 20 years. I got, you know, 30 foster kids and 8 kids of my own and all that kind of stuff, and I've been busy, and I thought that I had a government that I could trust. And I just don't feel that way anymore. And so my hope is that you guys will turn this down today, earn back some of that trust, and just so that we, as the people of Farragut, go, hey, yeah, these people have our best interests in mind, as well as the people outside of our area in West Knoxville. So anyway, I don't have any compelling arguments other than just saying I'll be honest with you, it doesn't feel right in the same way it didn't feel right in 2020 or 21. So thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We will next go to board discussion, and we'll start with Alderman White.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with every speaker. This is a pig in a poke. I'm not an engineer, but I know a pig in a poke when I see it. The purpose of this is to advance Knox County's economy. Well, sure it is. The more houses you can get on a piece of property, the better your economy is, because your property tax is higher. It's pretty simple. But the experts have done a better job than I can of explaining all that. What I want to talk about is the traffic and the safety. I've lived here for 70 years. Came here when I was 8 years old. I've seen it all, but you don't pay much attention when you're a kid, you know, to what's happening with land and what's happening with the roads. You just live. But you get a little bit older, then you start to pay attention. And I think we're in big trouble, traffic-wise. You take any more development at Choteau or anywhere around us and add that to the development in Loudoun County, which we have no say over. But if you go down through there, thousands of houses, apartments, condominiums are being built. All of them coming right through Farragut. An example, I was in Loudoun County Monday, and I came back to interstate and got off at Lenore City. And I got on Highway 70 to come home. I live in Bel Air. And I noticed there was quite a line of traffic at the red light. And I thought, that's unusual. Where are all these people coming west, coming through Farragut to come back to Loudoun County? So I decided to count the cars. Between 321 and Dixie Lee Junction, I had 227 cars pass me going west back to Lenore City. You add all that development to Lenore City, coming up 70, coming up Martell Road, turning on to McPhee, it's going to be a nightmare. We're looking down the barrel of gridlock. We can't afford any more traffic. We can't handle it. We're not capable of handling it. I'll say one last thing. Not one person that called me, sent me an email, or text me asked me to vote yes. Not one. Not one. So the way I see it, one lady had a specific impact on me because at the end of her say, she said, would you, excuse me, I've got a little frog, would you stand up for the citizens of Farragut? And I thought about that a lot. And you might have guessed I'm a little bit country. So I like country music. And there's a country music song that has a chorus. If you can't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, I'm not falling for this.
Okay, thank you, Alderman White. Alderman Meyer.
I knew you'd make me go past that plan. So, in my opinion, the rural area character of Choteau and Knox County, but Choteau in particular, and Hardin Valley, I should say, it needs to be preserved as it's developed. Folks have the right to develop their property as it's zoned or as precedent has been set. These amendments do just that. They reduce density in rural areas from 3 units to 2 units per acre. They also remove the light industrial use of the rural area. Both of these items will reduce the increase, which sounds counterintuitive, but it will reduce the allowed increase that's currently in the plan. These amendments change that. That's what I like about the plan. What I don't like about the plan is in terms of the planned growth areas, which is, if you have the map, if you've seen the map, it's the yellow, that's the majority of what's around the town of Farragut. Density is not addressed. Density is not reduced. And so therefore, I have a very hard time supporting this plan because density was not reduced or controlled in the planned growth areas.
Thank you, Alderman Meyer. Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this process of updating the growth policy plan as well as Advance Knox. I've been elected by Farragut residents and by residents of the town of Farragut to look out for and to protect the town's best interests. So as I look at the growth policy plan, I'm looking only at the areas that have the potential to affect the town of Farragut either positively or negatively. I believe there are some very good merits to this growth policy plan, and we need a good growth policy plan in place that encourages smart development. But it must be one that supports smart and reasonable plan development in areas that can safely handle the density and traffic it allows for. So a few parts of the plan that troubles me. In the North Shore and Choteau area, this area is simply at a breaking point in regard to traffic and safety. The current road conditions cannot support the traffic and activity that is already there. The transportation plan listed only has minor improvements planned for the area, leaving these residents in a very, very tough spot. If this area can't adequately handle the current traffic, how can it possibly handle what's to come in the next 5 to 10 years? Using the handout, I believe it was Appendix H that Knox County provided to us in one of our last meetings, under the area designated as rural on the growth policy plan in the Choteau area, there's 8 to 1,200 acres, maybe even more, that can be developed at 2 units per acre per the amendment to the growth policy plan. On top of that, it also allows for the possibility of neighborhood commercial. To achieve this zoning of neighborhood commercial, the place type categories in zoning handout, the applicant would simply need to meet 1 out of 3 stipulations, and it could be granted this commercial zone in the rural area. Having more areas like this develop in the rural area would put even more and more strain on the Choteau area that it currently can't handle. There's also a very large piece of property off North Shore with some parts of that property. I'm not going to say the name that you might know it as, but I'll just say a very large piece of property. That some parts of that property are in the planned growth and some are in the rural, and I believe based on the road conditions and the traffic safety concerns that it should be less dense and a better fit for rural zoning. And I think that's a huge miss, because when that develops, that is some intense traffic out of that one parcel. Putting this area in the planned growth designation puts a lot more cars and a lot more traffic on an already unsafe road. The growth in Choteau area simply cannot be handled by the current roads, and I'm deeply worried about the long-range transportation plan in this area. Without doing anything major to North Shore Drive to help get people to Westland, North Shore, or the interstate, people will continue using Farragut as a cut-through, either by the train underpass, by McPhee Road, or Concord Road, thereby increasing traffic that's cutting through Farragut. Another area that I'm deeply concerned about is Hardin Valley. Hardin Valley has exploded over the last 10 years. Under the new growth policy plan, there is a massive expansion of the planned growth area, and it's all on the west side of the town. This planned growth area ends up extending almost all the way to Watt Road. So the question I have to wonder and consider is, how will the people in these new homes and businesses get to where they want to go? Will they travel all the way down a super congested Hardin Valley Road? Or will they take a much easier path through the town of Farragut? Currently, we already have cut-through traffic from Hardin Valley that takes Campbell Station as well as Everett, and that's without all the additional planned growth area that's in this proposal. With this new expansion of the planned growth area, traffic will continue up Campbell Station Road, it will increase up Everett Road connecting to Kingston Pike, and it will bring cars to Watt Road that will then bring cars down to Kingston Pike. If this growth in Hardin Valley would have been more concentrated on the east side towards Pellissippi, the impacts would have been minimal to Farragut. But with the changes extending west in Hardin Valley to Everett and Watt Road, I believe this will have a negative impact by bringing more and more cut-through traffic into Farragut. Another area of concern I have is that I've heard a lot about from a lot of residents is the removal of the traffic impact analysis requirement that was removed out of section 3.5D, page 4 of the Green Line document. It was in the original document for the rural areas, and especially if you have a neighborhood commercial zoning change request, it just has to meet 1 of 3 stipulations. Given the current conditions of the road, I think it would be very wise to require a traffic study. The growth policy plan frequently refers to the comprehensive land use plan, which has not been adopted. This plan could change after our vote tonight. And if it changes, we won't have a vote in that. So we're put in a place where we must vote on the growth policy plan, knowing that the comprehensive land use plan could change. But either way, our vote will already have happened. Just to the north in Hardin Valley, this growth policy map amendment would add a couple, if not more, square miles of planned growth designated area, and I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on a policy that relied so heavily on the final version of the comprehensive land use plan before it was finalized. So I will not be supporting this.
So 5 years ago, the Knox County developer community sought to eliminate the protections of the rural areas of unincorporated Knox County that were laid out in the growth policy plan. That amendment proposed in 2019, if approved, would have opened up all incorporated Knox County to development without limitations. There was a lot of pressure to approve that amendment. 2 of the 3 elected bodies had approved it. The public wasn't engaged. Approval would have gone unnoticed. It would have been far simpler to fall in line. This board doesn't strive to do the simple thing. We strive to do the right thing. We rejected the amendment. Current growth policy plan law requires that all land use decisions shall be consistent with the growth policy, with the growth plan. It reduces the allowable density in the areas designated rural and unincorporated Knox County from 3 units to an acre to 2 units an acre. It specifies that development must access a collector road with a minimum width of 18 feet. It eliminates business parks and industries from the rural area, and there's no expansion of the planned growth area in unincorporated Knox County on the growth policy plan map in the Farragut area. I'm going to speak off the cuff. The reason that the Hardin Valley growth plan was expanded, planned growth area was expanded, was because the current plan allows for 3 dwelling units an acre. They ran 3 dwelling units an acre all the way down Hardin Valley, and now all of that is 3 dwelling units an acre. They had to include it in the planned growth area because they're now reducing the what's allowable to 2 units an acre. So they had to make that consistent. That's why there was an expansion of that in the Hardin Valley area, just so you're aware. What is before this board for consideration is simply the amendment to the growth policy plan. This board has no business considering Knox County's comprehensive land use and transportation plan in its decision-making. Further, our concern should be limited to the area that impacts the town of Farragut directly. The amendments to the growth policy plan serve to better protect, in my opinion, better protect the Farragut area, including Choteau and areas north of the interstate than the existing plan does. Knox County land use plan, we should not be using the Knox County Comprehensive Land Use Transportation Plan in our deliberation because it is in bad faith. The growth policy plan law was not established so that municipalities could weigh in on counties' general plans and vice versa. I'll go as far as saying this, though. The general plan adopted by Knox County in 2003 has utterly failed the Choteau area. Planning and subsequent rezonings failed to take into consideration the severe limitations of the Choteau area transportation network. Those who now attempt to extol the protections provided by the general plan, in my opinion, do not have the best interests of the Choteau residents in mind. If we do not pass this, sprawl will continue to happen. You will continue to see 3 dwelling units an acre in the rural areas. It just happened north of the interstate, which on Black Road should have been 2 dwelling units an acre. I believe that what's going on is we've protected Choteau through advocacy for the land use plan. The growth policy plan is in better shape now than it, in this amendment, than it is currently. And I believe there's a broader effort that if we don't vote for this, we are allowing Choteau to be a sacrificial lamb in a broader effort to politicize land use. Leaving this plan in place allows more of the same in Choteau, just more of the same. You'll get ignored because we're not looking at the land, we're not looking at transportation. We're just going to keep on at 3 dwelling units an acre. 3 dwelling units an acre is allowed in the rural area. I just don't see how this is a positive for Farragut. So I support this plan.
Okay, I'll start out by reading a couple of things that's in Exhibit A. It says Farragut's urban growth boundary contains 0.80 square mile. That is what this is about in all factuality. It's not anything to do with anything else in this town. Matter of fact, if you read, it says no recommended updates were made to any urban growth boundaries which surround the town of Farragut or the city of Knoxville. We're voting on tonight the growth policy plan. Granted, the transportation plan, the road plan, all that has to be fixed. There's no doubt about that. The comprehensive land use plan, I would start by looking at how we're doing it, okay? It works. But that's not what's being voted on tonight. So I think we need to understand what we're voting on, how it affects us. I know there's people here from both Hardin Valley and from Shodo, but what my concern is what affects us. And this does not affect us. The traffic, whether it passes or fails, the traffic's going to be the same. You're going to see the unincorporated area developed. It'll be back to business as usual, is what the vice mayor said if this fails. You're going to see, and what the elephant in the room is Loudoun County. We have no control over Loudoun County whatsoever. And there's where the development's going to be at. And yes, it's going to come through Farragut. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know of a way to stop it. There's no way to stop what goes on in Loudoun County. We have absolutely zero influence in that county. And there is no way to do anything about what they will do. They'll be developing it as a farm sale. You look at on down North Shore Road, you look on down Martell, you look at Bill's Chapel area, you look at Muddy Creek, all that area there is a lot of land that will be developed, and that traffic will be coming right through our town. Hopefully, the interstate will be widened, and it will help some. Hopefully, our traffic system will help some. But again, if we vote this down, then it will be back to business as usual. My concern is that the mayor of Knox County can convene again, or he cannot. I don't know what his position will be, but he's went through quite a bit of time, quite a bit of money to get to this point. If he decides that he's not going to go any further with it, then, folks, you're going to get what you paid for. So that's my position.
Call the question.
Okay. We have all had a chance to speak, and at this point, I will go ahead and close the actual talk by everyone and ask for a roll call vote.
Alderman Burnett.
No.
Alderman Meyer.
No.
Alderman White.
No.
Vice Mayor Hovland.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that it has failed. Thank you, folks. You're more than welcome to stay to listen to the rest of what we've got to do tonight. Or not. Up to you.
Let me take a 5-minute break.
We're going to take a break so everybody can do what they need to do.
say yes, Al. That's perfect. Go on.
Okay, let's see, where was,
We're on number 2, approval of resolution 2020.
yeah, I gotta find my paper. It got buried when somebody turned this over. I don't know who did. It's not
Move
important.
we adjourn.
Do what?
That's not on the agenda, though.
Oh, it's not on the, oh, yeah, that's right.
We have a lot more to get through. But
Oh, man.
Yeah, we didn't really get started.
Yes, we did not.
We just have a lot on the agenda. Did you find it?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to resume. Next will be approval of Resolution R 2024-03, Municipal Banking Services.
This is not as exciting as our previous agenda items. I beg to differ. All right, the purpose of this agenda item is to evaluate the proposals for banking services for the town operating funds. The town funds are currently deposited at 10 Bank, and staff last conducted the RFP and chose 10 Bank in 2017. RFP proposals from First Bank, 10 Bank, and Home Trust Bank were received on March 8, 2024. The majority of the funds are invested in the local government investment pool, otherwise known as LGIP, through the state of Tennessee. So that the account types and interest rates between the banking RFPs differ. The numbers used for the RFP comparison purposes and the account balance of $1.7 million. The proposal from First Bank will pay an interest rate based on the formula of 75% of the effective Fed's fund rate. Currently, the effective Fed funds rate is 5.3%. The resulting interest rate on the accounts would equal 4% today. During a potential period of low interest rates, First Bank will set an interest rate floor of 0.75%, which is the estimated rate needed to cover all fees in the proposal. The First Bank RFP estimates an annual fee cost of $3,362.58. The proposal from 10 Bank proposes the nonprofit platinum account for all town accounts. The nonprofit platinum has no annual maintenance fee and pays an interest rate on collected funds, currently a variable 0.5% APY. The 10 Bank will include a variable rate adjuster of 2.5 APY, making the proposed variable rate of 3%. The annual percentage yield is APY is the effective rate of return on an investment for 1 year, taking compounding interest into the account. The 10 Bank RFP estimates an annual fee of $65. The proposal from Home Trust Bank proposes an analyzed non-interest bearing account option, which offsets service fees with balances via earnings credit. And the gross fees, if the gross fees exceed the earnings credit allowance for the month, there would be a fee for the difference. At the proposed earnings credit rate of 1%, it would take an average balance of $750,000 to offset the fees for services with the volumes communicated in the request. Attached in your packets were all of the comparisons and all the RFPs from all three banks. Allison Myers, Trevor Hobbs, and Chris Sheffield reviewed the submitted proposals. The team concluded that the town utilizes 10 Bank for a 4-year municipal banking services contract ending in April 2028. The banking and customer service experience with 10 Bank has been very professional and beneficial to the town of Farragut. The motion is to approve Resolution R 2024-03, Municipal Banking Services.
move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Do you have any resident comments?
No, sir, there are no speakers.
None? Okay.
No.
Well, then I'll start off with Alderman Meyer.
Passed.
Okay, our CPA has passed.
That's because it looks good. If I have a problem with it, you'd hear about it.
I'm sure I would. Alderman White.
Oh,
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
I just want to praise Allison and whoever worked on this, because I'm not a CPA, and I read about 2 pages and fell asleep. So, thank you, Allison.
Good bedtime.
You're right.
Alderman Burnett.
Scott approves, I approve.
Vice Mayor.
I want to up Alderman White's and say I just took the entire section out of my packet altogether. What is wrong with you? That's all I have.
Well, I read it, and
Thank you.
I thought it was a job well done. And with discussion closed, I will ask the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Povlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Let the record show Resolution 2024 R2024-03 has been approved by roll call vote. Next will be approval of Resolution R2024-04, a resolution adopting the FY 2024-2025 Town of Farragut Strategic Plan.
Mayor, each and every year, the board adopts the strategic plan for our next fiscal year. The board worked through that process back in February. Our strategic plan has 5 key areas that we focus on each and every year, and then the board prioritizes different projects and policies that you want to see done in that fiscal year. All of that is included for you in your resolution R-2024-04, and I recommend approval this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any rested comments?
Yes, sir.
None, okay. Then we'll start with Vice Mayor.
Few things. So the future Greenway under Kingston Pike by Rick Terry Jewelers, we're putting out a year, so that needs to come out. I know we will discuss again the signal at Loop Road, Concord Road, or I maybe put that in at advancing high-quality, well-maintained community. And just because I'm concerned about staffing, I think this is an excellent idea, but I am very concerned about cost and staffing, and that's the Christmas ice skating rink has me concerned. So I'm just putting that on the record that I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm concerned about actually putting it into practice. So.
Okay, so taken. Thank you. Alderman White.
None.
Alderman Meyer.
I share the Vice Mayor's concern about the ice rink, not that I'm trying to be a Scrooge, but there's already an ice rink in town, number one. Number two, it costs $60,000 a year for an ice rink. So you multiply that times 3, that's $180,000 over a 3-year period for an ice rink. I can't support that.
Okay, Alderman Burnett.
I can't wait for the ice rink. And the residents are going to absolutely love it. So could not be more excited about that. And thank you, Ron, for all the research and everything you did to that. A lot of good stuff in here. I like it.
Okay, in my case, the strategic plan that we worked on, I think was very good. Everybody had input on it that was at the meeting. And I think we all had some good points and some good projects to look at. So with discussion closed, I'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Povlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show Resolution R-2024-04 has been approved by roll call vote. Next, we'll move on to ordinance. Tonight, we have 4 ordinances for public notice and review. We'll start off with public hearing on the second reading of ordinance 24-03, an ordinance to amend the general fund budget, the capital fund budget for our FY 23-24, passed by ordinance 2307.
Yes, sir. There have been no changes between the first reading and second reading. Just a general overview is the general fund budget will be increased by $40,000. This amendment is needed for the document scanning project for the Community Development Engineering Departments. The project was budgeted in FY 23 and the contract was approved in February of 2023. The project has begun and expenses will need to be budgeted in FY 24. The other one is the capital investment program. This will increase by $13,225, and the additional expenditure is needed for the professional services agreement for the Watt Road Roundabout project. And the motion is to approve ordinance 2403 on second and final reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any rested comments?
No, sir.
None. The discussion will start off again with the Vice Mayor.
I have none.
None. Alderman Burnett.
No questions.
Alderman Meyer.
Pass.
Alderman White.
I have none.
I have none as well. With discussion closed, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Povlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that amendments to ordinance 2307 by ordinance 2403 has been approved on the second reading by roll call vote. Next will be a public hearing on the first reading of ordinance 24-01, an ordinance to amend the definition of public tree and a street tree as provided for in the Town of Farragut Public Tree Care.
I'm Bart Hose. I'm the Assistant Community Development Director, and I'm here for the first reading of Ordinance 24-01, which again is a definitional change for public tree and street tree in our public tree care ordinance. This is a minor change, and basically it came about because the way the definition is currently written, it would leave some people, and particularly in some developments around town where homeowners associations have historically been responsible for caring for some trees that have been planted in their developments, in their neighborhoods. To think that the town was going to take over the maintenance responsibilities for those, and the way the definition was written, it was clear why people would think that. So this is just a change in both the definition of public tree and street tree to try to clarify the difference between when the town is going to be responsible for trees that are on public property and when the circumstances are where an HOA is going to be responsible or a larger development group is going to be responsible for that maintenance. So I think you have a page in your packet there that spells out, the existing definitions and the new proposed definition, and it tries to make the difference between trees that are planted or required by the town on public property, or trees that were planted and required by the town along greenways and trails and that sort of thing, as opposed to extra trees that may have been planted by a developer, as part of their larger development plan, and there was an agreement during the plan review process that the HOA was going to be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of those trees. So these are the two proposed change definitions. One is for public tree, one is for street tree, which is a category of public tree. And really the only difference in the street tree definitional change is the addition of the word public tree. So it better ties the definition of a street tree to the public tree. So if this is adopted moving forward, the town would be responsible for tree care of trees that are planted on public property, and that could be street rights of way, that could be town parks, that could be other public spaces owned by the town, if they are either planted by the town or required to be planted by the town. And that would also include trees along greenways that fell under those same type of provisions. And then we wouldn't be responsible for trees that might be planted in a neighborhood or within a development that still are on public property, but as part of the larger development review process, when it goes through the Planning Commission, there was an agreement made that the HOA or the developers would be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of those trees. And two good examples of that is the cottages at Price Farm. A lot of landscaping in those center islands in the roadways are the responsibility of the HOA. They did a lot of extra landscaping in there that would go well above and beyond what the town would typically be responsible for maintaining, so the HOA is responsible for maintaining that. And also up along Parkside Drive, the development group up there, they maintain a lot of that landscaping. Some of it is on the private property, some of it is in our road right away. And, but they're responsible for that maintenance. And that was, laid out during that, on that larger development review process. So it's really just a minor definitional change, and to try to make that clear when the public is reading it. it'll be clear for, the next HOA president down the line that's looking at it and wondering who's responsible for those trees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have any public comment on this?
No, sir.
None, okay. Then I'll start off. In a situation where you have got a tree that may not be in the right-of-way, or may be in the right-of-way even, and it is buckling the sidewalk because of the roots, where are we going to, what's our position with that?
I'd probably have to check with Public Works on that. So you're talking about a tree that was on private property and it's lifting up the sidewalks. I'm sure they would try to fix the sidewalks. It could damage the tree. I mean, typically you can do some root pruning and that sort of thing to where it might not be a problem, but I'm not really sure where the legal responsibility for a tree like that would fall. If the tree was on private property, I'm honestly not 100% sure how that would pan out.
I may have to defer to Mr. Hale on that.
Well, Mayor, I can give you a practical thing that we do. I think Public Works, from a couple different things, they'll either try to come in if they have to replace the sidewalk and put more dirt in over it to give some room for the tree to still grow, and then be able to come, as long as they have enough space to do this, have enough rise and run on either side to make that work. Or sometimes we do have to do what Bart just said, cut, prune, things like that to make sure that it's not buckling the sidewalk. And we can do that right at our right-of-way, or right at our right-of-way line.
And then if the tree dies?
That's not our responsibility. That would be the responsibility of the homeowner.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you. That's all I have. Alderman White?
No comment.
Alderman Burdette?
No questions.
Alderman Meyer?
Pass.
Vice Mayor?
I have nothing.
Okay, with discussion complete, I'll ask the county recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show the amendment by ordinance 2401 has been approved on the first reading by roll call vote. Next will be a public hearing on first reading of ordinance 24-04, an ordinance to amend the general fund, insurance fund, capital investment program, and the tourism budget for FY 23-24, passed by ordinance 2307.
Yes, sir. The general fund budget will be amended by increasing the appropriated expenditures from $10.47 million to $10.49 million. It's an increase of $12,500. The amendment is needed to budget for the FY 23 second installment payment for the memorandum of understanding between the town of Farragut and the Farragut West Knox Chamber. The chamber discovered that the invoice had not been submitted to the town for this payment during the FY 23 year. The insurance fund budget will be amended by increasing the appropriated expenditures from $125,000 to $250,000, an increase of $125,000. The additional funding is needed for the consulting fee and supplemental funding to complete the transition to an annuity for the closed pension plan. The capital investment program budget will increase $735,000. The budget amendments are needed for two projects. The mid-block pedestrian crossings project, $160,000, was budgeted in the FY 23 CIP and will need to be transferred to the FY 24 CIP. $75,000 is needed to fund the remainder of the project. The town center improvements project is $500,000, was also budgeted in FY 23 CIP and will need to be transferred to the FY 24 CIP. The tourism budget will be amended by increasing the appropriate expenditures of $70,036.75. The amendment also increases the ARPA grant revenue from $555,500 to $625,536, which is an increase of $70,036.75. The additional funding is added to match the grant received from the state of Tennessee. And the motion is to approve ordinance 2404 on first reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any rest of comments?
No, sir.
None? Okay. Alderman Meyer?
Pass.
Alderman Burnett?
No questions.
Vice Mayor? Alderman White?
No question.
I have nothing as well, and with discussion complete, I'll ask the county recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show ordinance 24-04 to amend ordinance 23-07 has been approved on the first reading by roll call vote. Okay, next will be the final ordinance for public hearing on the first reading. It will be ordinance 24-05, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Finance, Section 2-267, Depository of Town Funds of the Farragut Municipal Code.
Yes, sir. Currently in Section 2-267, the section identifies the bank that the town will utilize for the deposit of town funds. Town staff is requesting to delete this section in its entirety and replace with the following. Funds may be invested through and deposited with any bank or savings and loan association organized and operated under the laws of the state of Tennessee or the United States of America, whose deposits are insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and have either its principal office or a full-service branch office conveniently located to the town of Farragut, Town Hall, and the Farragut Community Center. Banking services must be evaluated every 4 years, and this change will allow the banking services to be reviewed and approved by resolution instead of an ordinance, which would require 2 readings. Motion's made to approve ordinance 2405 on first reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any resident comments on
Yes,
this
sir.
one? None. Discussion, Alderman Meyer.
Pass.
Alderman White.
None.
Alderman Burnett.
No questions.
Vice Mayor. None as well. Discussion complete. I'll ask Town Recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show the amendment 24-05 has been approved on the first reading by roll call vote. Next, we're going to move on to business items. Looks like we have 5 of those to review and consider for approval tonight. We'll start off with approval of contract for wayfinding sign program development.
Hi, I'm Hallie Riddle, the tourism manager. The purpose of this agenda item is the consideration of approval for the contract with Guide Design Studios to move into Phase 2 of the wayfinding project. Phase 1 of our wayfinding project with Guide Design Studios wrapped up in November of '23, and the main deliverables from this phase were our wayfinding assessment plan and general concept designs. Phase 2 would include a signage system, full signage designs and details, including materials for implementation, a project budget, and bid documentation preparation. Throughout Phase 2, there are several points for feedback and review on the design concepts to ensure that they accurately fit into the town's aesthetic and goals for the program. This phase is eligible to be funded through the Tourism ARPA grant. It is staff suggestion for the approval of this contract with Guide Design Studios for Phase 2, wayfinding sign program development in the amount of $37,520. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any resident comments?
No, sir.
None. Discussion, Alderman Meyer.
Pass.
Alderman Burnett.
No questions.
Vice Mayor.
None.
Alderman White.
None.
I have none as well. With discussion complete, I'll ask if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any noes? Let the record show the contract has been approved as requested. Thank you, Ellen. Next will be approval of bids. Award of contract 2024-12, mid-block pedestrian crossing.
Good evening. This project includes construction of 2 mid-block pedestrian crosswalks. The first one will be at Grigsby Chapel Road, a little bit east of Weatherly Hills Boulevard. The second will be on McPhee Road, a little north of the northern entrance to McPhee Park. Both of these will have flashing beacons. The Grigsby Chapel crossing will have an island very much like the one at the Grigsby Chapel Greenway to the east. We received 3 bids on February 27th. Stansel Electric bid $291,581.49. APAC Atlantic bid $304,091.20. And Southern Constructors bid $299,841 even. Staff recommends approval of bid and award of contract 2024-12 to Stansel Electric Company for the low bid of $291,581.49.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any resident comments on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Alderman White?
None.
Mayor?
Pass.
Alderman Burnett?
Yeah, Daryl. So does the island have ballards or something that would block a car? Or is it just a curb with
I don't
some?
believe it does.
Okay.
They don't put ballards in mid-block crosswalks.
Unless there's a trail.
I was about to say, I thought they did sometimes.
But not in a mid-block crosswalk in a street,
Okay.
just on a trailhead,
Yeah.
where you prevent cars, but
I
it
think,
has something to do with putting in something that could kill somebody in a car.
well, it's also us putting somebody where they could get killed by a car.
Understood.
We probably will have signs on the island.
Yeah, I guess my concern with this is around location. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about location, but I mean, think about morning hours pulling out of Weatherly Hills. You're not pulling across all 3 lanes to go towards the school or towards the interstate to work. You're going to be pulling in that turn lane, and then you're at the mid-block crossing. So I guess my thought is, why not move it down 100 yards? I mean, heck, it can go either direction. I just worry that that's such a short stacking area.
I believe it's about the same distance as the one at Fretch Road.
Not familiar
The
with that.
island, the median island at Fretch Road.
You mean the one at Grigsby, right by, there's quite a few neighborhoods that exit
Wyndham
out
Hall.
in the,
Daryl, you're referring to the one near Wyndham Hall, right there, that island, if you're turning left?
No, I'm sorry, I'm referring to the one just at the median island. It's not a crossing. The median island at,
Okay.
just to the east of Fretch Road.
Is that where Lanesboro is?
It is.
Down Fretz? Yeah, that's fast. So we lived in Lanesboro, and that's very short, and with a few cars, you're stacked out completely. That's my concern is
that's quite
you
a
stack.
distance. You can't,
Yeah, but you're pulling out into there going fast.
understood, but that's a raised island, and I assume that we'll be putting some landscaping in there.
Sure. I still think you pull out of there fast, heading into that turn lane, and you never stop trying to merge to the right. You try and roll, so when your gap opens, you can hit your gap. I don't know, to me, it just seems like it's too close to that crosswalk.
I wish there was more room, but that is a place where quite a few people do cross now.
Yeah, it is the runners and walkers.
So they're crossing where they feel safe.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, that is not safe.
I think they're crossing where they've got vision.
And certainly an engineer, our consultant wouldn't have put that there if he didn't think that had enough room for stacking and sight distance.
Do you think that has enough room to get out of Weatherly quick in the morning and then immediately have to stop?
I think it does, but it's, yes, it's kind of tight.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Vice Mayor?
I have nothing.
I don't either. With discussion complete, I'll ask if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Let the record show the contract has been approved as requested. Next be approval of bids and award contract 2024-13, installation of decorative street lighting on Brooklawn Street.
Eric Schindler, Town of Farragut Engineering. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider bids and award the 2024-13 installation of decorative street lights contract. The aluminum Brooklawn street lights are to be replaced by black decorative street lights for improved curb appeal of Brooklawn Street as per the approved fiscal year 2024 Town of Farragut Capital Investment Fund budget. A total of 15 decorative street lights are to be ordered, with 14 replacing existing aluminum street lights and 1 spare. The existing aluminum poles will be retained by the Town of Farragut as replacement inventory if needed in the future. There are 4 bids with a low bid of $226,486, placed by Progression Electric. The contractual work completion deadline is on or before November 1st, 2024. And we recommend approval of proposal and award of contract 2024-13 to Progression Electric LLC for its low bid of $226,486. And I did speak with Progression Electric prior to this, and they gave me a estimated lead time for the ordering of the streetlights at 12 to 14 weeks.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. The rest of comments?
No, sir.
None, okay. Discussion, Alderman Burnett,
No questions.
Alderman Meyer,
Pass.
Vice Mayor,
None.
Alderman White.
None.
My question is, where are you going to store these things, these ones that you take down?
Public Works.
But
In your garage, Mayor.
It'll be a conversation with Bud.
that's a pretty long pole. Anyway, okay, that's good. That's all I had. Discussion completed. I'll ask that in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Let the record show the contract has been approved as requested for Progression Electric. Thank you, sir. Next will be approval of request for supplement from JMT Inc. for additional right-of-way acquisition services for the Union Road Improvements Project. Wow, really?
In your packets was a supplement request from JMT Incorporated for additional work that they have done on the Union Road project. They are acting as our right-of-way agents for acquisition of all the right-of-way and easements for the Union Road project. There have been plans changes. There have been a few areas like septic systems that had to be located. Quite a bit of additional work that was outside their scope. They're asking for an additional fee of $34,000, and staff recommends approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any rest of comments on this one?
No, sir.
None at all? Okay. Alderman White?
None.
Vice Mayor?
I have none.
Alderman Meyer?
Pass.
Alderman Burnett?
No questions.
I have none as well. Discussion completed. I'll ask that if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Let the record show the supplement has been approved as requested. Okay, next will be approval of Board and Mayor and Alderman meeting participation guidelines.
Mayor, for several years, the board's had public speaking guidelines that are on the back of everyone's agenda whenever they receive them and see them on our online or when they come to our meetings. From time to time, we review those meeting guidelines. The town attorney, Tom Hale, and myself reviewed those, and Tom had some suggestions based on recent state law changes and court decisions regarding these types of matters about just some of the wording of our guidelines to get those consistent with that language. And so the motion before you is to approve the attached public comment guidelines for the Town of Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meetings.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Rest of comments?
No, sir.
None? Okay, discussion, Vice Mayor?
I have none.
Alderman White?
I'm just seeing what changed. I haven't read it. I didn't do my homework.
Okay, then I'll go on to Alderman Burnett.
No questions.
Okay, I did read it. I think it was what we have to do from time to time as we have changes in the law and in what happens with court cases. So I'll come back to you.
Okay. I have no comments.
Okay, you have no comments? Okay. Discussion completed. I will ask if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Let the record show that the guideline request has been approved as requested. Thank you, David. Next will be citizen comments.
No, sir.
None signed up. Okay. Then we'll go to Town Administrator's report.
Mayor was going to mention that we are going to have a workshop next Wednesday, but given the board's decision tonight regarding the growth policy plan, we need to amend that and also have a special called meeting. Tom and I were talking during our recess. One of the things whenever you reject the growth policy plan that state law requires is that we give a reason for that and that we talk through during that process what the board would feel comfortable going back to the Growth Policy Plan Committee, saying that they would like to see changes made too. And so we need to just have a good discussion around that. And so what we'd like to do is have a special call meeting on that on Wednesday, April 3rd at 5, which is what we were going to have the workshop. And then we'll just proceed with the workshop right after that's complete.
Starting at 5?
Yes, sir.
You make that stuff?
Yes, sir.
You can? Okay. Okay, you can, okay. And
Can I say something? Because I got to say something.
it's,
I have,
let's hold it a minute.
okay.
Drew, can you make this?
Just double checking.
Before we start getting into when we can do it, let's make sure that everybody can make it.
Yeah, I can.
You can? Alderman White?
Yes, sir.
Vice Mayor?
I can be there. I don't want to be there.
Okay, well, it looks like I can be there. Okay, Alderman. Vice Mayor, you can.
Thank you. In 2019, when the developers decided they were going to gut the growth policy plan, I had no clue what the growth policy plan was. Doesn't impact us as far as our planning efforts. So I had to dig in deep, get educated. And I attended all those, the coordinating committee meetings. I listened to all of the issues people were having and really struggled because we were getting a lot of pressure to prove that. And I thought it was bad, and I spoke my mind, and I understand that. We all do that. So I've stayed engaged with Knox County and their planning efforts since then. From the time that they engaged with Kimley Horn and worked through this land use plan. That land use plan is not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than what we have now. Right now, if we leave, can I finish? I have the floor, please. If we leave this growth policy plan in place, and you read the growth policy plan refers directly to zoning districts that exist, planned residential.
It's out of order, Mayor. Totally out of order. We
I don't
need
care.
a lecture. The vote's over.
I'm gonna speak my mind because I'm tired.
Well, I'm going home.
No, that's fine. You don't have to listen.
I've heard all that crap I need to hear for tonight.
There are considerations.
Hold on a minute. Alderman White, you're excused. Go ahead.
I think you all need to look at the growth policy as they sit and understand that this ties Knox County's hands to amend their ordinances because they refer directly to existing ordinances. Now, what that means, I don't know, but I hope that you all will look at this. I watched a 2-year plan. It's not perfect, but then again, our land use plan isn't perfect. And if you looked at the difference between what we approved in 2012 when this was adopted and the changes we've made in 10 years to our land use plan, I'm happy to share it with you. It's night and day. It's much lower density. So I'm pleading with you all to look at the issues that we've created for Knox County. And I know that's not changing the vote because we've already had the vote. We have to figure out a reason why we're rejecting it. I probably don't even need to be at the meeting because I didn't. So.
Well, I would suggest everybody that voted against it to be prepared to state your case because you will have to as far as the reasoning for your vote. So I guess getting with Alderman White to let him know that as well.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mayor. That's no problem.
There's one thing I need to state in the law. This can go to the state Secretary of State to assess. And if they find that we have a what was the word I used? Tom, do you know what the law is about? Here it is. If they find that what we did was in bad faith or a frivolous action, they can find us the liability of the reimbursement is needed to study all of this. and in a manner clearly punitive to such bad faith or frivolous actions, fine us. That's in the law. So we better have a valid reason we did not approve this growth policy plan related to this growth policy plan, not related to the land use plan that they're working on.
Or transportation.
Or transportation plan. So that, we just need to be aware. Obviously, Tom, you're going to take us through the law. But you'll take us through the law at the meeting so that we understand the reality of this is that the land use plan is not our issue. It's whatever we're relying on is the growth policy plan.
Anything else? Tom, you're up.
This law went into effect in 1999, and it was an effort by the legislature to make local governments talk to one another about these issues. It's not our role to tell the other governments how to do their job, and it's not their job to tell us how to do ours. What it requires is communication. And the process, beginning in 2019, when the amendment was proposed and was rejected, that process resulted in communication. And there were proposals made and changes made. What the law requires us to do, if we're going to reject what has been recommended, is we have to submit back to the coordinating committee the objections and the reasons therefore. I sat here and heard some pretty rational people talking about some pretty rational concerns they had. And I think Louise is right. We can't go say, well, we don't think you've got enough trees, and so we want you to adopt an ordinance to put more trees in the county. That's not what this is about. This is about looking at the plan and the things that are required in the plan and proposing changes that would make it acceptable, those amendments to be acceptable to the town. So everybody's right. We better come with some thinking and be ready to come up with some rationale for, not come up with it, you already came up with it. I'm going to go home and watch this meeting again and listen to what everybody said, and we'll take notes, and I'll help you craft your reasons for what the objections were, and we can go back, and if they're not willing to accept the suggestions we make, then, I think we need to remember what David Rogers used to teach me all the time when he was a town attorney. He used to say, Tom, just remember this, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. And so the point is, let's don't overshoot ourselves on this thing, but let's come up with some things that are really concerning about the recommended changes themselves and go back with a proposal. That's what we're duty bound to do under the law, so let's just be ready to do it. This group knows how to operate. You do it in good faith. I'm not worried about somebody claiming we're being in bad faith. I think it's a matter of just being rational and reasonable. And, when you come to a meeting and everybody that speaks on the subject speaks against it, I don't think you have to listen to everything people say that speak that you don't agree with, but there's some reasons to think that maybe some changes could be done that would be better, and that's our job, is to tell them what we think would be acceptable.
Okay, sir.
And I don't have any other report other than to say we didn't get sued this week.
Okay, well, we're thankful. And, guess now we're doing something we need to do. The time is approximately 8:23, and without objection, the March 28, 2024 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting is